Okay, let's get into this. Welcome, everyone, to a deep dive. Today, we're heading deep into the Florida Everglades. We've got this source material that, well, it doesn't just describe a problem, kind of throws you right into the middle of trying to fix it.
Exactly. And you're stepping into a really serious situation down there. We're talking about the Burmese python invasion. These snakes, they're not supposed to be in the Everglades, right? But their numbers have just exploded, and they're causing huge problems for the ecosystem, really hitting native mammal and bird populations hard, wiping them out in some cases.
Yeah, and the source we're digging into today, it follows this really unusual angle. It's this mix of, like, conservation science, boots on the ground hunting, and then there's this completely unexpected part involving, well, cooking.
It really does. It takes you right there with the professional hunters and the conservation folks who are, literally getting your hands dirty or muddy, I guess. And it shows that sometimes tackling a problem this big means you have to get practical, really get involved directly.
So our mission here for this deep dive is to untack all of that from the source. We want to understand just how big this Python problem is, look at the nitty-gritty methods they use to find and catch these pythons, get a sense of the real dangers involved for the people doing it, and then, yeah, explore that surprising culinary twist at the end.
Right. It offers a perspective on dealing with invasive species that maybe you haven't thought about before. It's intense, it's practical, and it wraps up with something, well, pretty unconventional.
And the source highlights that Florida's taking this very seriously. They're actually funding these hunts, bringing in pros to try and control the python population. You sort of ride along with some of the top hunters doing this work.
Yeah, and it gets real fast. It shows you this isn't some, casual hike. The hunters demonstrate how to handle them, starting with what they call a small one, which turns out to be about 6 feet long. And you hear one of them describe what a bite feels like.
Oh, that description. Yeah,
Hmm.
that it feels like a bunch of needles going into your hand.
Yeah.
And the detail about the teeth, 4 rows on top, 2 on the bottom. Definitely not something you want latching onto you.
Not at all. And they make the point that's a smaller snake. The big ones out there can be, well, much, much bigger. 10 times that, potentially.
So then they head out properly in the swamp, and the scale, the sheer size of the Everglades is just staggering. 1.5 million acres, plenty of space for these pythons to hide, and the hunters stress how good they are at it, masters of camouflage.
Incredibly hard to see. And what's interesting is the tip they share for spotting them, it's kind of counterintuitive. You're often not looking for the whole snake, but for a subtle glint, a shine off their skin in the sunlight.
Looking for a little bit of shine. Across 1.5 million acres. Wow. That sounds like finding a needle in a haystack, doesn't it? It's gonna split up just to cover more ground, constantly scanning these small sections.
And the source reminds you, it's not just the pythons you need to worry about out there. There's this constant background awareness needed for, spiders, venomous snakes like copperheads, even Florida panthers, and of course the alligators, especially in the water.
Yeah, you hear the hunters calling out reminders like, watch the gators. This is their turf.
Ah,
It really drives home how challenging that environment is, even before you factor in giant hidden constrictors.
absolutely. It underscores that this isn't just about finding one animal. It's about operating safely in a really complex, dangerous place with multiple threats demanding your attention all the time.
There's this tense moment captured early on. They spot a tail, but the snake gets away before they can grab it. You can feel the frustration, but it pushes them to go deeper, wading into the water.
Which, as they just finished reminding us, is prime gator territory. So you definitely feel the risk level increase right there in the audio.
And then success. Someone spots one. You hear the call, there's one right here, and it's instant action. Grab him, grab him.
Yeah, the source really captures that struggle. It's intense, there's chaos. Someone actually gets bitten during the capture.
Ouch. But like they say, pythons aren't venomous. So it hurts a lot, I imagine, but it's not life-threatening in that way. They manage to wrestle it, get control, and secure the snake.
Right, and once the adrenaline settles a bit, there's the necessary, though difficult part. Humanely euthanizing the captured python. This particular one measured 9 feet long, pretty substantial.
9 feet. And wrestling that in chest-deep water, trying not to get bitten again, and keeping an eye out for gators, that is serious work. But they got it done. One less major predator impacting that ecosystem.
And this is where the narrative takes that sharp turn you mentioned earlier. After the snake is dispatched and skinned, the focus shifts from the hunt itself to, well, to the kitchen.
Yeah, it's framed almost like a deal, isn't it? Like, you teach me how to catch them, I'll teach you how to cook them, that kind of thing.
They do bring up a really important caution right away, though: mercury levels. Pythons accumulate mercury, so you absolutely can't just start eating them regularly as a protein source. It's definitely presented as more of a one-off, a special occasion maybe, almost a symbolic thing for the hunters, connecting with what they caught.
Right. So they describe the preparation, filleting the meat off the skeleton, dicing it, and then grinding it up. Apparently the texture, once ground, is quite similar to ground pork or chicken, which is surprising.
And then they start building the flavors, adding things like shallots, pineapple, some jalapeno for heat, brown sugar, soy sauce.
And bacon fat, that seemed key. Because python meat is apparently very lean, can be dry, so the fat helps. The pineapple adds that sweet and sour element, and the brown sugar is for caramelization, getting it nice and crispy.
It sounds like quite a complex flavor profile they're aiming for, trying to make this unusual meat palatable, even delicious. They cook the ground python mixture until it gets properly crispy.
Crispy python mince, served up in lettuce wraps, I think.
Exactly. And the reaction from the hunters tasting it, it sounds genuinely positive in the source. They specifically tackle that idea that python is tough or rubbery. They say this way: cooked crispy with all those flavors, it was actually great.
So stepping back, what does this whole source really show us? Beyond just the thrill of the hunt, I mean. It feels like it's showing a really direct, very hands-on, and let's be honest, pretty dangerous way of tackling a huge environmental problem.
Yeah, it walks you through the whole process, from understanding the ecological damage these snakes are doing, to being right there in the swamp with the people fighting it, feeling the tension of the hunt, the risk, and then ending with this very unexpected communal meal.
It really underscores that protecting these fragile places sometimes demands really complex solutions, often risky ones,
Yeah.
and sometimes, yeah, pretty unconventional methods.
That culinary part, especially, it makes you think, doesn't it, about finding creative ways to deal with the problem. Could an invasive species, a liability, somehow be turned into even a limited resource? It's an interesting thought.
Hmm. This source definitely leaves you thinking about the sheer range of human intervention that becomes necessary when an ecosystem gets thrown this far out of balance. What kind of practical, maybe even surprising solutions bubble up when the standard approaches just aren't enough? Definitely something to mull over.